All right, so I'm here at Black Mesa State Park, and I'm getting ready to do the high point of Black Mesa for uh, Oklahoma. It's not actually the high point on Black Mesa, but it's a high point for Oklahoma. It's an 8.4 mile trail. They're recommending that in the summertime you take 8 liters of water because there's no shade. That's insane. 2 gallons of water. I'm going to take probably 4.5 liters. Then I'm going to pour my coffee into one of my half liters. So 4.5 liters of water plus a half liter of coffee. It's I just came from Guadalupe Peak, which was really, really crowded. And it's so nice to be at this quarter full, beautiful facility with all kinds of animals. There's a bunny rabbit in front of me just hopping around. We saw deer on the way when I was coming into the campsite at night and packing up. There was about a family of 7 deer. I saw 2 antelope run across the road as I was coming in, and I saw about a dozen prairie dogs. So I think this is going to be a really interesting hike. Watch out for the herbivores that may eat you. And it's a long hike, but I'm not expecting it to be that long because there's not a lot of elevation gain. So there's about 750 feet of elevation gain. I give every 1,000 feet, I give an extra hour to the hike. So 3/4 an hour to that. You'd make it a half. If it's about 8 or 9 miles, then 4.5 hours for that. So we're looking at over 5 hours, just at a leisurely pace. If I'm feeling really leisurely, maybe 6 or 7, but that should be plenty. The only kind of risk would be thunderstorms in the afternoon, but I think we're early enough in the season. It's April, it's the week after Easter, and this will be my second high point if it goes well of this trip, and that'll probably be it for this trip. It was about an 8-hour drive from Guadalupe Peak to here. But you're kind of on the same longitude with Guadalupe Peak, and so this far panhandle of Oklahoma, you don't have a lot of cause to go to, and even Google Maps kind of routes you through some dirt road or gravel roads, but I was able, at least coming from the south, I was able to find roads that were paved, but I didn't see a lot of people out here. It's pretty deserted country. It's very much in the wildlife. Hopefully we'll get some of the nature. Trail won't be crowded today, and get to see a lot of animals. So Google Maps almost directed me off-road. So it was a good thing I waved somebody down and asked them directions, and they said to go through the campsites at the park. So I recommend, if you're here, stop in the park office. They actually have a lot of nice trail maps and a lot of things that you want to pick up. But in particular, the High Point hike is 15 miles down the road from the park office, which is behind me, that brown cabin there, which is right after you get to the RV sites. So you got another 15 miles to drive before you get to the trailhead, through the park, before you get to the trailhead. So from this. Okay, so it's like 15 miles an hour in the state park. I think we drove like 2 miles in the state park, and now we're leaving the state park to get to the trailhead. Beware the cows in the road. These are cultivated cows, but there's no separation between them and the road. You might want to navigate to Kenton, Oklahoma, if you don't stay at the Black Mesa State Park. There does seem to be a bed and breakfast sign here, so there might also be some things in town. I was able to see the town from the hill. I'll check it out on my way back, but you probably could get good navigation to there. and it's very close to this turnoff, which is about 5 miles to the trailhead. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. or Mountain, 10 a.m. Central. We're in actually Mountain time, I believe, here. I checked out the bathrooms, and I also checked out the register. The register seemed to be averaging about 3.6, so 3 to 4 people in the month of April that signed in the register. But that probably could be like 1 or 2 cars, because if you have a family hike it, then you're gonna get 4 people. So there is one other car here right now. It doesn't look like a ranger's car, the white truck, but he didn't sign in. So it's also possible some people just don't sign in. They don't notice the register, or they wait until they get back to sign out because they don't want to say they turned around or something. I would also say there is a pit toilet here. It does not lock, so make sure that you're not going to bump into somebody else in your party, or if you're with a party, then have somebody stand at the door and tell them not to open it up. But it was quite nice, and there is a trash can inside the pit toilet that you can use. Don't throw trash, of course, in the pit toilet. There's a trash can. Otherwise, pack out your trash to the car if you can't find a trash can. So 4.2 miles, it says, up. They actually estimate the time for six hours, so a little more conservative than my estimate of the time. And I think I usually typically have conservative estimates at times, especially compared to what the National Park Service will tell you. But maybe Oklahoma is a little more conservative on the time, and they warn you it's going to be hot. You probably don't want to do it on a really hot day, and you got to worry about thunderstorms in the afternoons, and it can be quite cold at times. But today seems like a good day so far. I probably could have got an earlier start. You're not allowed to hike this at night, unfortunately, so you can't get an alpine start on it, which would be helpful if you're really worried about thunderstorms in the afternoon. Oh, and I guess the other thing is, in terms of Kenton, there are no services in Kenton, Oklahoma, so you could just use that for navigation. But there is that bed and breakfast. They did refer to you the bed and breakfast. There's also a list of numbers that they have at the trailhead, so take a picture of those in case you need help. And sign in so they know that you're there. So don't wait until you sign out. But yeah, so I think if you wanted to buy anything, probably the state park is the closest, although they recommend this town 40 miles away. I think it's Boise City or something. So not a lot around here in case you need to buy stuff. So come here with your water already. There's no water here at the trailhead. Come here with come here with your food, because it's going to take you 6 hours, so you can get hungry. Just be prepared. Don't expect that there's going to be anything here for you, or you'll see anybody. Okay, before I went here, I looked at 2 videos. I could only find 2 videos on this high point, and one of them I thought was quite funny at first, but upon reflection, after I did some research about this high point, I thought it was totally inappropriate. So now this may be in the bottom half in terms of difficulty of high points. I'm not sure. But it's not in the top 10. And, I've done Whitney and other high points that I think probably will be more challenging than this. But 8.4 miles is 8.4 miles. And depending on the weather conditions, that can be very, very difficult, regardless of the elevation gain. So to say that this is a trivial hike, there are some trivial high points. So, for instance, the high point in Louisiana, which we did, was pretty trivial. It was a short little trail. It was a nice trail, but to make fun of this particular high point, to say that it's so easy in parody form, I think is not accurate. That 8.4 miles, regardless of the terrain, in some conditions, depending on your preparation, can be very, very, very difficult. So don't underestimate it, and don't listen to people making fun of it. I think that's absurd. Okay, so this is interesting. It's Black Mesa was made of an ancient lava formation, and so the surrounding hills got worn down over time, but the lava formation stayed, and that's what makes the mesa, because it was like lava that flowed in the valley. Very cool. All right, I'm here at the mile one bench. So it is like a dirt road trail to start out with. It had, I think, almost as much up as it did down. So we're at, over 4,000 feet. I think my watch is off by like 700. It's saying about 4,800 feet, which cannot be right. Yeah, it was quite pleasant. It's hot. It's really hot here in April, but it's a nice trail, and I haven't seen anybody. But beautiful scenery. I guess if you really needed to cool down, you could hide behind one of these bushes. There's actually a lake right in front of me, but it's totally dry. So if you got a Sawyer straw or you got iodine tablets or whatever, I would not bet on finding water unless it just recently rained. Okay, so I'm at this marker, which is just past the 1 mile mark, and it's got a nice billboard talking about the history of this part of Oklahoma, the Panhandle. It was wanted to be part of Texas, but some dispute between slaveholding kept it from being part of Texas. It was put into the Indian territory that was Oklahoma, and the Indians were kind of driven out by the Santa Fe Trail, which ran through this Cimarron County. And then the other interesting placard here is about how Black Mesa, the High Point Nature Preserve, came about. So it originally started in 1959 when the state of Oklahoma bought the 100 acres around the High Point. And then the Jenkins Lloyd Jones, the publisher of the Tulsa Tribune, bought the granite monument, the granite almost obelisk that is at the top, and they put it there in 1960. But this whole preserve was mostly purchased by the Nature Conservancy, which bought over 1,600 acres, something like that, 1,660 acres, I think, and they 16,660 acres of land to create this, and they donated that to the state of Oklahoma after they did those purchases in 1989 and 1992. So the present trail that you see here only dates back to the 1990s, although the obelisk has been there since the 1960. All right, time to keep on walking, get to mile 2. So you probably can't see it. It's where I am pointing. There you can see the switchbacks from the about 1.5, 1.6 mile mark that go up to the mesa. So you can't really see the mesa, part of the mesa where you're going to, until you get to the 1.5 miles in. So if you think you know where you're going, you probably don't. You're gonna get to the top of the mesa, but you don't know which part of it, and it kind of, it has all these parts where it recedes and goes out, and it's you get tempted. You're like, oh, this trail is taking me too long, but no, actually, it is fairly direct to where you need to go. All right, so I'm at the mile 2 marker here. I just saw a couple who'd just been to the summit, so I assume they're the owners of the white truck, and so they said that it wasn't too windy. They also said that there's maybe a water stop just right up forward, so we'll check that out when we get to it. Very easy, very flat. I don't think we've really gained any elevation yet. I think we're going to gain all our elevation on those switchbacks that we're coming up to at about mile 2.5. Okay, so I'm at the emergency water stash. So there you go. You could get some water here. I don't know if that'll always be here. Do not leave trash in the box. Pack out all trash. But it's got about a few dozen water bottles and a first aid kit. And rodent repellent. But don't put trash in there. I don't think you need to put your water bottles. Somebody else put the water bottles. It's like same brand, about 3 dozen of them. So if you're dying at mile marker 2.5, you can get some water to take up to the top and get some more on the way back. But I got plenty of water. I'm still working on my first half-liter bottle of Diet Mountain Dew. And when I get done with that, then I'll get some more water. I also have this thing, so I've got plenty of water, so I'm good. But that's great that this place is so well tended that they leave water for hikers. Okay, so right next to the water, we got a couple markers here. It looks like we gained about 100 feet of elevation so far, or something like that. And one of them talks about the fact that the paleontologist John Stovall from 1930 to 1954 excavated dinosaur remains. Some of the rock layers on the bottom go back over 200 million years. And so that's how they were able to find some remains there. And then I was confusing, I called them antelope, but it was actually pronghorn was what I saw at the Black Elks Park. And or Black Mesa Park, and there's mule deer, and there's also elk. I guess the elk have fuzzier collars than the mule deer. And I think I did see a quail as I was driving into the park. I have not yet seen the rattlesnake, and I hope I don't. Okay, I'm at the mile 3 bench. I guess we're maybe halfway up the mesa here. We gained about 250 feet, so I think maybe it's a 500 feet gain from the mesa. So this is a tough 4x4 road. I wouldn't want to drive my 4x4 up this road, but obviously they do this frequently. Pretty steep, but very wide because it's big enough for a truck. So not bad at all. Reminds me of the hikes I did in the Marquesas, where I would take the 4x4 roads as a hiking thing, and I'd almost never see a car or a person. So I've just gained the plateau portion of the mesa. It's about mile 3.2, so not very far from that. I think we've gained about 500 vertical feet since the parking lot. So we may have 200 vertical feet to go, but it's going to be on top of the mesa from this point on, and so not not much climbing, should be pretty good. It's a little windier up top here. It's probably also getting windier in the day. It's about noon mountain time now. So we'll hike on, and maybe I'll show you some views of what we've come down from. All right, so I'm at the obelisk here, or the monument for Black Mesa's high point, the highest point in Oklahoma, 4,927 feet. So 2.5 hours roughly to get here at a leisurely pace, sitting at all their benches along the way. There's not a bench at the 4-mile mark. There's a one at the 4.2 mile mark. There's a granite bench. But there's a sign-in box here, so I'm going to sign in. It says here that Cimarron County, that's the county we're in, is the only county in the U.S. that touches 4 states. If you think about it, if you're like at a 4 corners, you're typically, maybe if you're at a corner point, you maybe touch 3 states because of the 4 corners, but because of the Panhandle of Oklahoma, it touches a 4th state. So that's interesting. Just really on the edge of Oklahoma, so I guess you're kind of close to high points, and you're basically on the same longitude for Sunflower Mountain, I think, in Kansas, and then Guadalupe Peak in Texas. And we're also very close to Boundary Peak in New Mexico. I was gonna go to Boundary Peak, but it is snowed in at the moment. This is the biggest snow year since 1953, and I didn't think I could get very close. Even with my snowshoes and crampons and ice axe, I didn't think it was gonna be passable. Otherwise, I would have gave it a try. If I thought there was a 40% chance, probably. But I was running out of time. Storm was coming in, and this is just a worthy hike to do. You don't want to miss out on this, and may not get the opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to have the opportunity. I probably won't on this trip to go to the Sunflower Mountain in Kansas because I think I'm running out of time on this trip. But maybe we'll go back when we go back to hike in Colorado, and we'll get to visit Sunflower Mountain on the way. So yeah, you can walk to New Mexico from here. There's actually a trail to walk to New Mexico all 1,300 feet away, a quarter of a mile. New Mexico, 1,299 feet due west. Los Angeles, 895 miles. Texas, 31 miles due south. Kansas, 53 miles east-northeast, and New York City, 1,605 miles. Colorado, 4.7 miles due north. All right, so it took me 4.5 hours. I was booking it at the end because I was thinking that I'd go to Sunflower Mountain tonight. So I think I might drive straight to Sunflower Mountain after this, which is about 4 hours north of here, and then come back to the state park at night. Yeah, it was definitely easier terrain, but not an easy hike. And if you've never done an 8-mile hike before, let alone one in elevation, then it might be challenging. But subscribe to Slow Boat Sailing, where we give you the stories of the most interesting sailors in the world, our round-the-world adventure, and we also do the high points of the USA.